Hello YouTube, this is Birdo Prey 5 again, and welcome to another live stream of BedLife. Huh? And wouldn't it be cool if I actually put the camera on instead of the end screen? Hello Chief Cook, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Can you hear me? And if you don't see me yet, I'm sure you will soon. Chief, can you hear me? Let me check the voice, the audio. This is Birdo Prey 5. Seems to be working. Ah, good. You can hear and see me. Perfect. Perfect. So yes, this is BedLife for Wednesday, January 30th, 2019. I noticed at some point yesterday that on the last episode of BedLife, I incorrectly announced it as Tuesday. It was, of course, not yesterday I did it, but the day before. So it was actually a Monday the 28th, not Tuesday the 28th. Of course, no one called me out on it, so I assume most people just missed it because it was right at the beginning of the stream. Okay, some people have made their way here. Besides Chief Cook, who was first. Thomas Potts, welcome. Vixen is here, we can start. Resolute Germ, hey bird in chat. Kronos says, good call, Vixen. Thank you guys all for coming on by. I figured, let's face it, these streams don't follow much of a set pattern, but I figured I'd start off today talking about some of my favorite comedy movies, finding out what you guys like, what you guys didn't like, because let's face it, at least I think you can learn a lot from the movies some people find funny, and more so from the movies people don't find funny, that they should. Like, for the longest time before... Yes, Sassy, don't worry. We won't forget about you. For the longest time before Anchorman came out, my favorite comedy was Austin Powers and the Austin Powers series in general. I had this close friend who absolutely thought they were the dumbest movies ever. And it boggled my mind how you could watch... Okay, maybe the later ones I could understand got a bit cheesy for sure. But how you could watch the original Austin Powers and not find that funny. It was like, I didn't want to know you. If you didn't find that funny, I did not want to know you. Now I'm sure half of you or all of you probably going to say, oh, you didn't like it either. I'm not saying I don't want to know you now. I'm just saying that's what I thought at the time. I certainly didn't think I could be close friends with somebody who had such an obvious bad taste in movies. Of course, we remained close friends, and I realized that there's more to life and friendship than what movies you like, obviously. I learned. But at the time, man, I was weirded out. Sassy's been hearing a lot of noise outside today. One of the neighbors' houses, one of the neighbors' houses is... what is that in the driveway? Yeah, Oh, it's a bag or something. No, there's something blowing next to the car. You don't see it? It's coming towards the back of the truck now. It looks like either a piece of paper or a bag. Okay, no, at first I thought it was a bird. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. I brought up the... I wasn't saying sorry to you, but I'm sorry to you too. No, I was sorry to people on the stream. I brought up my camera for a second and I saw this thing that looked like a bird waving, stuck on the ground, and it snowed here this afternoon. It was kind of a weird thing to see, but I think it's just the trash that blows through New York City on a regular basis. So, where was I? Austin Powers. Oh, yes, I've come to realize it's not that important, but I'm still interested to know what you guys think are funny, what isn't funny, and things like that. Doomcock just uploaded a video, but it's not a live stream, so you don't have to run over there. You can watch it after. Okay, let's see. What are people saying? Vixen gave me, I assume it's to me, maybe it's to somebody else, gave a kissy face. Lips, I don't know. Kiss, it's called Kiss. Thank you, Vixen. Chief Cook says, I was on Track Yards. I was too, Chief, actually. I was watching them until about, 8 or 9 minutes before I started streaming. Yeah, thank you for coming here. Thank you for choosing Team Bird of Prey 5. I do appreciate it. I know you have a choice in your selection of YouTube live streamers. Nerdrotic was live too. I don't know if he stopped. I actually went from Nerdrotic to Trek Yards to getting ready, to eating dinner, to getting ready to stream myself tonight. So I know that there is a selection, and I'm glad you've chosen me. That's like what the airplanes say, the airlines say. We're happy you've picked, American Airlines to fly with today. It certainly wasn't because we had the cheapest price or some other reason, because we lost your luggage 15 times before. It's because we're the only people flying to where you want to go directly. And Vixen is making other faces. Aw. Chief Cook says, hear what, Kronos? I don't know what's going on. Vixen says, cheese is good. Well, cheese is good. I don't know about cheesy. Resolute Germ says, they are very dumb movies. Uh-oh, Resolute. Are we talking Austin Powers? Or are we talking Anchorman? Or are we talking all comedies? Thomas Potts says, I didn't like Will Ferrell, and so I've never saw Anchorman. Thomas, I did not like Will Ferrell before Anchorman. The only thing I liked Will Ferrell on prior to Anchorman was when he played Alex Trebek on Celebrity Jeopardies on Saturday Night Live. I almost hated him on, like, all of his other Saturday Night Live appearances. Made me gag, pretty much. Especially when he played that religious with that other woman, and they did like some type of religious couple or something. I was like, I just don't see what's funny here. But Anchorman changed my life, Thomas. Anchorman changes the entire script. I'm not going to say, I mean, I am a Will Ferrell fan now. I give his movies a chance, but nothing holds a candle to Anchorman. Even his other movies. Some are decent, some are less than decent. Anchorman stands alone at the top. If you like comedies, I strongly suggest you give it a try. That's the best I can tell you. It's especially in today's climate, a movie set in the 70s, back when men were still men. Of course, the I don't want to give away the whole plot of the movie, but of course, it's like the beginning of diversity, and there are so many references I could do from that movie. It is unbelievable. So if you want to know, I mean, if you want to know what makes me tick, you should watch Anchorman for no other reason. Chrono says, Chief Cook, that you were in Track Yards. Bird, your wife is here. Yes, I see her. I blew her a kiss already. Oh, and she has the carousel horses that are her spirit animal, apparently. And she has a merry-go-round in City Skylines. Thomas says, smite that bag. Yes, if I could. Not send an asteroid at it. It's too close. Vixen says, it's coming to kill you, Joe. Oh, God, no. Sassy will take it down before it gets to me. Anthony D. Hello, Anthony. Welcome. He says, hey, all. Kathleen McManus. Related to Derek. Says to Chief Cook, was there much shilling going on at Track Yards? I'll leave that to Chief Cook to answer. Vixen says she's laughing at Thomas. Congrats on the marriage, Vixen, says Kronos. Chief Cook says, now talk about ship again. Okay. Vixen says, thank you to Kronos. Vixen is getting married, Anthony D says, and then he laughs. Yes, Anthony, you might have missed the news. Vixen and I, depending on the exact story, are either engaged to be married, we might have possibly already eloped and aren't telling anyone, or we have eloped and are telling some people but not others. But yes, it was an arranged marriage in Vulcan tradition. I arranged it through a Ferengi contractor, who I am not allowed to say his name, but he does have occasionally dress in a bunny suit. It cost me some good money, but I'm hopeful that it'll be worth it. And Vixen says we did get married and you missed it. I'm sorry, Anthony, but if you want to send a gift, ask Vixen for where we're registered. She takes care of that stuff. Kronos says, I would love to have been a wedding crasher. And there he says the name of a very funny comedy, Wedding Crashers. That was a great comedy. And it did have Will Ferrell in it. That yeah, that had some good scenes. But it was that Owen Wilson and the other guy who's hilarious. Oh yeah, great movie, Wedding Crashers. So starting in college, now it's like this. American Pie was a little bit too young. I mean, not too young, but we were already in college when American Pie came out, and that was about high schoolers. So even though the original American Pie was hilarious, it felt like, we're already past this. Then Road Trip came out. And Road Trip came out while I was still in college, and it was a college people, and that was like spot on great. Who is that? Tom Green. Even though he wasn't a major character, he was kind of like half the narrator, and he was still in the movie despite not going on the road trip. That was hilarious. That little thin kid who's now starring on the Amazon TV show where the Nazis won. What's that show? I'm drawing a blank. Man in the High Castle. Yes, Man in the High Castle. He almost looks exactly the same as he did in Road Trip. It is very weird. I mean, that must have been 20 years ago. But yeah, he's in that. I haven't seen him in much between Road Trip and Man in the High Castle, I have to be honest. Anyway, then after Road Trip was Old School. And Old School came out at a good time because it was like we had graduated college, but our hearts were still young enough that we still wanted to wish we were still in college. And, the whole premise of that movie is a guy who has not long since, but since graduated college, goes back because his wife was cheating on him. Or his girlfriend. I'm not sure if it was his wife or his girlfriend offhand, but he was being cheated on, and he moves next to a university, and his friends turn his house into a frat house to have wild parties, and that was just another hilarious movie. And then after Old School, I don't know if I can think of another top level, high level, great movie that followed the aging process. Some people would say this is 40. I am not the biggest fan of that movie. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't one of my favorites. I would not put it up there with the others. But man, Anchorman was a high point. You have to go back to like Airplane before you find a movie, to me, as funny as Anchorman. And I don't remember seeing Airplane. I think it probably came out either I was still a baby or even possibly before I was born. So, yeah. Just wanted to get that out there. Interested in your ideas. Vixen says, Thomas Potts, sorry, we only invited our mothers. Chief Cook says, hi, Kate. Who's Kate? Thomas says, we choose correctly. Vixen says, Birdo Prey 5. Maybe we should have a second ceremony. We'd probably get more gifts. Derek says he watched Neurotic then went for a walk. Anthony D. How's it going, Joe? Going pretty good, Anthony. How are you doing? Chrono says, I don't know what's going on either. Chronos, from what I hear, that seems to be what you're saying, unless you have somehow, I've talked you into watching Star Trek Discovery, and you have to deal with the pain. Chronos says, play the Mob City. Well, just heads up for tomorrow, I assume we will get back to City Skylines. I did go ahead and I rebuilt the prison bigger and better than before. Now I got everything in there. In fact, remind me if anybody can remember for tomorrow. The only thing I have left to put in, I didn't take care of garbage. So I need to put in an incinerator or a small dump, a landfill, something on what will become an island. Totally self-sufficient. I've cut it off from water and sewage, so there will be no pipes leaving the island. There will only be one way on and off the island by a bridge, and that will be it. Everything else is self-contained. The island has power, it's got water, it's got sewage. All we need is a garbage collection. And the island will also be a small operating farm, so they can grow some of their own food. But yes, I'll go through the specifics with you guys tomorrow. And then you guys can see as I make it an actual island, and you can watch as the water will, jump the banks as it fills in, as we cut through the land to make it an island instead of just being on the coast. And, we'll do some things, get it up and working. And then we'll have the biggest prison complex in, I assume, the state of wherever that city is located. Fernando, welcome. Fernando Perlada. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Fernando. Let me know. Welcome to the stream. He says, I fly twice in an airplane and like 6 in a bike. Twice in an airplane and 6 on a bike. Okay. Chrono says, yes, ma'am. I assume that's the Vixen. Anthony D says, the fight scene from Anchorman is epic. It is indeed epic. Rule 1. No touching of the head or hair or face. Other than that, there are no rules. Vixen says that angel makes it look like Bird has hair. Oh, that angle. Yes, it looks like I've got I got his hair. Yes, would that make you happier, Vixen, if I had that full set of hair. It was accidental. Actually, this was my second choice in picture. I actually would have preferred to use this one, but to be honest, I completely block the head blocks the panther, so it's like why why bother? I mean, I guess I could move over to the side or something, but for those who do not know Anchorman, this is a very, very expensive and rare, decadent cologne. It is called Sex Panther by Odeon. And 60% of the time, it works every time. Yes, that is a quote from the movie. So, yeah, that was the initial background. And when I saw how poorly it was working out, I went ahead to use this one. This was my backup. Chrono says, Whoa, how did you get a wrench? Oh, Vixen, how did she get a wrench? Well, she's my wife. Can't not give my wife a wrench. Fernando said she only had to marry him. Exactly. He knows what's going on. Vixen says, I'm a mob wife. I have authority. Lol. Vixen, there's no such thing as the mafia. You're just a regular wife who has certain responsibilities that you're not supposed to talk about. Anthony D says Sex Panther cologne. Yes. Fernando says marry. Maybe that's the new angle for Miles. Chrono says, wow, I need to watch The Sopranos again to get some insight. Sopranos was a terrific television show. I mean, it is obviously complete fiction, but as fiction goes, it's fun to watch. As is Goodfellas and Casino and A Bronx Tale. All great movies, not comedies, mind you, but fiction. Not in any way based on real life. Vixen says, I didn't ask Bird for the merry-go-round, he just knew. I never even talked about it before. Obviously, we are soulmates. Indeed, I just had this feeling that what could I give her in my city? And I said, I bet she'd like a merry-go-round. I put it next to her library. And then next to Cheesecake Factory. Chrono says, Track Yards is a farce. They are biased. They loved STD because of the word Star Trek. Anthony D says, is Vixen with child yet? Anthony D, Vixen... Okay, Vixen says not yet. Surprised she said not yet, and absolutely not, never going to have a kid. I hate kids. Chrono says, I hope Vixen isn't a child. That would be weird. Yes, Chronos, that would be weird. In fact, it's kind of weird that you even had to bring that up. She's told me repeatedly she is 38 years old. She seems to be living on her own. So I feel like I'm safe, even if for some reason she was lying about her age. I think she's at least 18. I feel feel pretty confident we're safe in that respect. Anthony D says, my mom is a high priestess on Vulcan. Oh, well, that's good. Vixen, am I worth all the latinum you spent? Wasn't latinum, Vixen. It's, he wasn't interested in latinum for some reason. He was interested in passwords to certain adult-themed websites that I was able to provide him. He was very happy to trade. So, Chrono says to me, please don't quote my last comment. Well, I can't not read it, Chronos. There's no way for me to skip ahead and know that you didn't want me to read it. Anthony D says, we all know that Vixen is a Dabo girl. Vixen, yeah, too late. Kronos says, I never understood Dabo. Kronos, the only thing important to know about Dabo is that the girls look good. That's the only important part of Dabo. And you yell, Dabo! Kronos says, the Nazis won. Yes, in Man in the High Castle they did. It's Man in the High Castle is a series about an alternate future, even though it takes place in the past, in like the 1950s, if the Nazis had won World War II, and basically the United States is divided up. The eastern third is governed by the Nazis. The West Coast is governed by the Japanese. And the mountains in the middle, like the Colorado, the Utah, the Rocky states, up and down the coast, that is the so-called neutral zone. Not as in Romulan, but as in the Nazis nor Japanese ever managed to get inland that far. I guess the locals were too well armed, or they just assumed that they got far enough and they stopped fighting. Both seem ridiculous to me. Why either would leave a neutral zone that would clearly be the place for a resistance to grow and spread. But yes, they left this neutral zone up between them, and that's where the last real Americans seem to live. What the what, says Kronos. It's called Man in the High Castle. It was a book, but now after a book, it got turned into a TV series on Amazon Prime Video, currently in its 3rd season. I'm not sure if there will be a 4th. I just don't know. Kronos says, Vixen says that guy looks anorexic. He was on Supernatural too, but Road Trip he was much better. Yeah, I never watched Supernatural. Kronos says, dude, you need to play more anti-Sim City. I heard Airplane, said Kronos. Yes, Airplane was a great movie. Darth, welcome, Darth. Bird of Prey 5, hey, it's Don Burdoli, a.k.a. Legs. Very funny, Darth. Resolute Germ says The Other Guys is the only good Will Ferrell movie. Agree to disagree, Resolute? Did you see Anchorman? Darth says to Vixen, I see you there lurking. Good. Chrono says, oh sure, blame me for not forced to watch that free STD episode. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, Chrono says, I have many regrets. Vixen says to Darth, I'm not lurking, I'm talking about my wedding with Joe, yes. And only because it came up yesterday in talking with Darth and others. If you see my eyes closing for long periods of time, don't be worried. I'm not about to fall asleep. I am aware. I've watched these videos now on rerun enough that I see for some reason I do close my eyes for longer than normal periods of time. It's got nothing to do with being tired. It's just, I don't know why I often close my eyes during exercise and other physical activities. It's just something my body does. Not driving. I mean, this is new since I got sick. It wasn't something I used to do. But, yeah, you don't have to be worried that I'm about to pass out. So just want to give you guys that heads up. Fernando says, stranger than fiction is good to Resolute. Chrono says, don't blame lurkers. Lurkers make the world go round when you think about it. We wouldn't be where we were if not for lurkers. Vixen says, Thomas Potts, because they are all Klingons in there. I don't know what that was about. Thomas says, so while the rest of the town is in trouble, the jail will be safe. No, I mean, yes, they do have an emergency shelter. And yes, they do have increased police activity and some extra fire departments and courthouse. But you know what? A jail is supposed to be a secure building, right? I mean, when the zombie apocalypse comes, the jail is one of the best places to be. We saw that in The Walking Dead. So you can't have a jail that is not secure. That would defeat the whole purpose of a jail. Really a prison in our case. So yes, it is an unfortunate fact of life that our prison has to be built to a higher quality standard than, say, public housing. Because if people escape prison, it's a bad prison. If people escape public housing, that's just them going to work or school. And that's what we want them to do. Chrono says, wow, there are a lot of wrenches. Where did you get them? Mob stories, never mind. Vixen says, Darth, did you accidentally drop some acid? Darth, Vixen, va-va-voom, who said it was an accident? Ah, touche, Vixen. Vixen is now laughing. Hair is not relevant, says Kronos, unless it's on Klingons. Then they need it. Darth says, Bird of Prey, thanks for the screen show. I knew you were a furry. What are you talking about? I'm no furry. Vixen says, nah, you don't need hair. You have lips. Aw. That looked pretty weird. I hope I didn't scare you away, Vixen. Darth says, why did I choose milk? Yes. Why did I choose milk to drink in the hot heat? Damn you, son. Milk was a bad choice. And for those who didn't see Anchorman, it probably makes no sense. I'm in a glass cage of emotion. Oh. So, for the longest time growing up, when we'd go over my grandparents' house, my grandfather had this big wooden ship that he'd have over the television in their living room. The story I got was that he got it from some guy off of a ship who was kind of selling them, literally coming off the docks, selling them. They were made in Chile, handmade in Chile, that they would probably have been quite expensive, but there was this guy he knew who was selling them for relatively cheap, and he picked up this big wooden boat, and for years and years it sat on, I don't know, like a mantle at my grandparents' place. And growing up, I always loved to go over and look at it. It wasn't a toy, it was a wood model ship, and it had sails, it had chains on it, it had everything on it. It was beautiful. And then one day, my aunt had my cousin, and so there was like kids. There were kids in the house because I was still a kid, but I don't know if we were playing, and I don't know exactly who was involved. Excuse me. It felt like a hair in my mouth. I don't know. Sassy is shedding, so there are dog hairs over everything right now. Anyway, I don't know what exactly happened, but I kind of remember a Nerf football hitting the ship and breaking a piece off its bow. And they kept it up, but then my grandfather passed away, and eventually the TV, because it was over a TV from like literally 1975 or something. Eventually that needed to be replaced, so this whole thing came down. My grandmother put it up into storage in the attic. She was looking to get rid of it. I said no, I'd love to have it. I had bought a house, so I brought the ship to my house, and I sat it in my basement, but the house was undergoing construction. And besides being broken, at this point it was just filthy. It got covered in the dust of sheetrock and all this stuff. I should have covered it in plastic or something, but I didn't, because I knew at some point I'd have to send it out to get restored anyway. And I figured, at this point it didn't make a difference. And I went years. Literally, I got the house in 2005, and it wasn't till 2000, the end of 2008 or early 2009, that I finally found a place to do the restoration. It was in New Jersey. I drove with my father. We went there. We dropped it off. This ship was huge. It was far bigger than the guy anticipated. He had a beautiful but super crowded model and hobby shop. It took up his entire counter. We put it on. He didn't know how long it was going to take for him to fix up. He literally gave me it could be anywhere from a month to 12 months. Depending on how much detail he was going to go into it. And then he also said, do I want to encase it in glass? And I said, yeah, because he said glass is going to be the only way to really keep it clean. Of course, that really increases the weight of it. And then he said, do you want to give it a name? I can, like, carve a name, because the ship didn't have a name, into it. For the longest time, I was gonna tell him to name it Diversity, because it was a big, big wooden ship. And again, if you haven't seen Anchorman, you have no idea why that's funny. But trust me, it is hilarious. Unfortunately, or fortunately, thinking that, yeah, it would be difficult to explain why a big wooden ship is named Diversity in maybe another 30 or 40 years. God knew I hoped to pass that down at some point in my life. I instead went with Empresa, the Spanish translation of enterprise, because it was made in Chile. Spanish is the official language of Chile, so it would be weird to call it the Enterprise, but Empresa, I believe Empressa, if I'm not mistaken. Empresa sounded good. Plus, it could tie it into Enterprise and Star Trek. So, yes, the ship is now named Empresa. But it came very close to being named Diversity. And fun little story fact, since I'm on the subject. The ship actually got finished about, I don't know, a week after I went into the hospital and was in a coma. And the guy was panically trying to contact me to come pick up the ship, because it was literally taking up half of his store, and he didn't have room for it, and the fact I owed him hundreds of dollars on the restoration. I only paid him, I think, 50% up front. And he couldn't get me by my home number. He couldn't get me by my cell number. Nobody here was picking up the phone because they were really only here to sleep. And my cell phone, it was going to voicemail. He was leaving voicemail after voicemail until the voicemails got full. Finally, as a last act of desperation, he snail mailed a letter to my house. And that's what finally got read by someone. And they called him and explained the situation. And although he cared a little bit, the fact was it was a burden to him to have this in his store for a long period of time. So my uncle, my dad, and my cousin all went and picked up the ship, now 10 times heavier, since it's in this giant glass case, and brought it back to my house. And it was one of the things they told me about after I woke up from the coma that I was really interested in seeing. And I did see once I got home. I do have pictures of it. I didn't think to get them, but next time I'll try and get some pictures of it out if you guys are interested. But yeah, the purpose of that story was to say that it was supposed to be called Diversity. I ended up changing it to Empresa. But to me, part of it will always be called Diversity. So, yeah, I know that was a tangent. Left a lot of time for more comments. Derek says Tiger 131 is crap with a no-skill crew. Okay, Derek, not going to argue. Chronos says, oh shit, not derp, wrenched as well. Darth? Yeah, Darth's got a wrench. Derp as in Darth, yes. Is cheesecake a thing? The Cheesecake Factory is a well-known chain restaurant. I don't know how to They have pretty good stuff. I go there for their food more than, well, I used to go there for their food more than their cheesecake. But yeah, they're a thing. Resolute says not a good thing, Kronos. I guess Resolute is not a fan of chain restaurants. Derek says, kids never say never. Yeah. Kronos says, I didn't type anything. Okay, Kronos. Vixen says, Darth stole that wrench. He's in the Irish mob. Well, there might be an Irish mob. I can't speak to that. Thomas says he doesn't want a son to kill him and take over the business. No, the son wouldn't kill me. He'd patiently wait. Kronos says Darth's stroke is hilarious. Darth says to me, Vixen is actually 65, transgender. Her name was told she lived beside you as a kid, but vanished. Vixen is actually 65, transgender. Oh, her name was Todd. She lived beside you as a kid, but vanished. I had no Todds who lived near me. Darth. Vixen says to Kronos, cheesecake is heaven. And Vixen says to Darth Raven, you idiot. Uh-oh. Did he spill a secret I should know, Vixen? Kronos says, damn you, Bird of Prey 5, don't quote me. I'll try to stop quoting you. Derek says Bird of Prey 5 is not called Neelic. Okay. Vixen's Darth says to Vixen, yes, sir. Oh, that's cold, Darth. That's cold. Kronos says, I didn't say Nazi anything. Darth says to me, Jaloja. I'm holding in a Jaloja right now. I don't know if I get to the end of the comments before I have to do that. Vixen says to Darth Raven, shut up, ma'am. Thomas Potts says, High Castle is what Hollywoods think Trump's America is. Fernando says, it isn't. Darth Raven says, Vixen, didn't you assume my gender? I'm calling the cops. Kronos is up and down the coast. Get some of Vixen's hot. Up and down the coast, get some Vixen's hot. But spelt weird. Derek says, Lol, Darth, Vixen told you to shut up. Oh, no. Vixen says, boring. I only want to hear about the Romulan neutral zone. I blame Kronos for this terrible turn in conversation. I'm sorry, Vixen. Are we really that far back up to where I was talking about men in the High Castle? Derek says season 1 was very good. Kronos says fair enough. Vixen says, Derek, I indeed did. Darth, ma'am, you need to shut up. Kronos says, why does Darth make you tough? Vixen says, Kronos, Darth is funny. Grrr, Darth is funny, says Kronos. Thomas says, wake up, Bird o' Prey. Kronos says, needs more Alexa. Alexa, black alert.
Black alert. Black alert. Black alert. Black alert.
I almost did this
Black alert.
during Anti-Tracker stream today, since I could talk to his stream,
Black alert.
but
Black alert.
I figured he wouldn't let me back on if I did.
Black alert. Black alert.
Alexa, stop. Vixen says he's just contemplating the meaning of his life, Bird of Prey. Chrono says the meaning of life is simple. Fernando asks 42. Vixen says lick that like guys. So, Darth says Bird of Prey 5. I know about a secret about Vixen. I just sent you on Discord. Uh-oh. Okay, you know what? I will check Discord. In the meantime, I'm going to also Jaloja. I wish I had something interesting to show you. Okay, here's a video that has a very young Bird of Prey 5 in it. You see if you spot me.
Could you please step up to the front of the line?
I want to deposit this for safekeeping.
Well, let's see what you have here.
It's all I have in the world.
Hands up! Everybody, back up against the wall. Stay together over there and keep your hands where I can see. Yeah, get the satchel.
Not my satchel. It's all I have.
It's the law. Quick, get the bag and let's get out of here. Check the take.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the cop. Or the security guard. I was supposed to be sleeping. It's a bank heist.
Check the take.
I'll pause it here. If we have time. If I need to Jaloja again later, we'll come back to it. But the best part, the part with me, it's already over. This was at Universal Studios in Los Angeles. When we were there, I don't know how old I was, like 7, 6. I was 6 years old. My sister was a bit upset that I was just allowed in to do it, because I was even big for my age even then, but she would have been 4 and was too young. So yes, very interesting trip, that trip. Vixen says to Darth, traitor. Darth says to Vixen, says you, I give you that cookie to mind for me. Where is it? You gave Vixen a cookie? Chrono says something I'm not going to say because he doesn't want me to say anything, apparently. Vixen says to Darth, it's a cookie. She gives him a cookie. Chronos says, so you... Okay, I'm not supposed to read what Chronos says. But he says, so you just need to give cookies to someone. Darth says to me, cringe factor times 1 billion. Yes. Vixen says, I love your kisses. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Vixen. Derek says, prison is boring, no internet. Yeah, I guess that would be one of the worst parts. That and the constant raping. Darth says, to Derek, you obviously haven't made friends with the right people. Vixen says to Derek, McManus, I thought we outlawed cruel and unusual punishment. Yeah, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually put it in place. Chrono says this is a sad story. Derek says nothing to do but sleep and read and watch TV. If only it was that easy. Vixen says, sassy, stop shedding. Yeah, it doesn't work like that, Vixen. Vixen says to me, I thought the hair came from that toupee you were wearing. No, not yet. Not yet. Chrono says the mob was going construction. Darth says, Vixen, you bring it to the park, family. They have a great sauce to go with sassy. Oh, I saw what you said about that earlier, Darth. That is just wrong. Very, very wrong. And Vixen says to Darth, Joe will love that comment. And she'll be right back. She's getting coffee. Fernando says, no, nobody translates enterprise. Chilenos idiotas. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Darth says, Vixen Parks will love sassy. Oh, did I just read that? Derek says, at the Battle of Jutlad in 1916, ships called Nassau fought on both sides. Okay, interesting. SMS Nassau and HMS Nassau. Very interesting. Vixen says to me, I can show you my... Oh, wow. Okay. Derek says, well, Bird of Prey 5, that's an offer. It seems like it is. I feel like it's a trap. Fernando says, corsets, fishnets, oh, ooh la la. I don't know if she's into those things, but if she is, I'm not going to complain. Dart says, Vixen, dust off the cobwebs first. Vixen says to Darth, put your pacifier back in, baby boy. Oh, yes, this conversation is headed off the rails. Thomas Potts says, Anti-Tracker would have found it funny. Yes, I think he probably would have. And I still owe him for making me say her name that time. But I'm going to save it for something even more spectacular. Darth says, when Mrs. Anti-Tracker comes on, I dare you to do that. That is not right, Darth. I didn't say no, but that is not right. Derek says, I talked on Anti-Tracker's stream. You did, Derek. And Ensign Ricky, I just knew he didn't know that Anti-Tracker was live. So I had no other way of telling him because he clearly wasn't on the stream. And I didn't know if or what Discord he might have been reading. So I just had to go on the Discord and voice to tell him, like, hey, Anti-Tracker's live. And, yeah. Because I realized Anti-Tracker didn't realize that Ensign Ricky didn't realize that Anti-Tracker was live. If that makes sense to you. Vixen yells, Jaloja! Derek says, Jaloja. And Thomas Potts says, the movie A.T. was in. Vixen says, what am I watching? Well, I explained it before, but it was a movie, when you went to Universal Studios back in the day, they would take people from the tour group and you could star in a movie that was basically a bunch of their old movie clips strung together with a few scenes custom shot. And yes, I starred as the inept security guard who was supposed to be sleeping throughout the entire robbery of the bank. Darth says, Vixen, porn. No, it was not porn. Vixen says, Darth, no one is having sex. How is that porn? Oh, God. Darth says, Vixen, it's feminist porn. Oh. Derek says, I didn't know Bird of Prey 5 was in Bonanza. I wish I was in Bonanza. That would have been great. Vixen says, Darth, damn you feminists. Says to Darth, damn you feminists. Fernando, it's European porn. No, that's certainly not European porn. Vixen says, aw, you're so cute. Resolute says, I'm from Kid Cop. Oh, from Kid Cop to Mob Boss in 30 short years. No comment. Darth says to me, you had hair once. That adult cowgirl is enjoying that horse too much. It does look like she's enjoying that horse, now that you mention it. And yes, I once had thick hair. It started thinning out in college. Even one day in college, I was walking, and there's a part of the building where the second floor overlooked the first floor, and one of the professors yelled down, "Hey Joe, you're getting a bald spot." And I knew I was, because it's not like it was sneaking up on me, but I didn't need a professor yelling it down at me. But yes, that was my college years. So yeah, it started happening in college, and eventually I just had to cut it off. Wasn't meant to be. I tried the Rogaine. Didn't really notice anything. So, whatever. Derek says, almost midnight. Peter will be getting up for work soon. Resolute Germ said, Mob, I understood what you were saying, Resolute. Vixen is laughing, so true. And laughing at Darth, and wow, that got dark fast. Darth Raven says, Vixen, when you show him your lady part, show him your male parts in a jar. Ha ha. Oh, Darth, that is terrible. Thomas Potts says, I now have a mic. Well, that's great, Thomas. Vixen says to Darth, I never had male parts, you idiot. You idiota. That's not nice, Darth. It's not. Darth says, Vixen, I didn't say they were yours. They are your ex's. That's possibly worse, but I guess not. Vixen says to Fernando, thank you. And then she laughs at Darth. And Darth says to me, inept security guard now. Inept godfather, I'm still alive. Stop slacking. Darth, if I wanted you gone, you'd be gone. I'd smite you. Resolute Germ says, Joe, I feel your pain. Thank you, Resolute. The pain of marrying a woman who might have been a man once. I hope you don't. But Darth says to me, Professor, oh, look at the student with self-esteem issues. Let's point it out. Hey, Joe. I guess he figured I was so damn confident that it wouldn't bother me. And it really, I mean, it only bothered me in the fact that I realized that college professors at my school wouldn't find it objectionable to yell such a thing across the building. But to be honest, I was kind of happy that I went to a school where the professors were that kind of laid back. Of course, he was never a professor whose class I actually took. And not a lot of people really liked him. I can't imagine why. He was a professor who's... Okay, so during college, I was in a fraternity. The fraternity had an office that was connected to the student lounge in the engineering building. So, like, you'd have to go into the student lounge, and in the lounge was a door that then connected to our office. And our office was as big as the lounge was, but it was private for fraternity members. Although we'd leave the door open because we'd sell snacks to raise money. But for the most part, whatever. So the door's usually open, so people are hanging out inside the office, outside the office. Now, in the student lounge, obviously, right by the entryway, there's a garbage can, which, you know, every room in the building had a garbage can, a pretty decent-sized garbage can, emptied every night. And, of course, every professor's office also had a garbage can. But this particular professor who yelled to me about thinning hair Also, one time, came out of his office and dropped a half or whatever was left of a smelly tuna fish sandwich into the garbage can in the student lounge, because I guess he didn't want the smell of tuna fish in his office for the rest of the day. And I really honestly couldn't have cared less, but one of the fraternity brothers, who he was actually a Navy veteran already at that point, so he didn't really give a shit about anything. He wasn't going to take that. He took the bag out of the garbage and put a note on it and stuck it back in front of the professor's door with a note that said, "Thanks for the smelly tuna fish." And yes, so then that professor never again threw out his smelly tuna fish in the student lounge garbage can. One of the better memories, more interesting memories of college. Derek says, I had hair until the twins, so I just shaved my head. Better without it anyway. Derek says the twins are 21 now. Oh, very nice, Derek. Vixen says, Thomas, will you be chatting with us on Discord? Darth says, Vixen, in seriousness, how is your head? Did it get any sleep? Derek, you must have had twins and survived. Impressive. Vixen says, Darth, my head is the same, but I got some sleep. Thanks for asking. Darth says, Vixen, the usual spot after the stream. Just a reminder, Vixen, and it's completely up to you, but at 8 p.m., I'm not sure if it's 8 p.m. Central or 8 p.m. Eastern, I believe Doomcock's, his round table is tonight. So, yeah. I don't know if you're interested, but you might want to think about checking that out. Something is tonight. He did the other thing 2 nights ago, or 3 nights ago, and tonight's the 5 minutes. Everybody gets 5 minutes to say or do whatever. So I expect a love poem. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Vixen says to Darth, after I watch the Orville, yes. Resolute says I was referring to your hair. Derek says, if you have twins first, you don't know the difference. That being said, my middle was more work than Eleanor and Ermele put together. I assume those are the twins. Austin Powers. Twins, Basil. Twins. Darth Raven says to me, we had a teacher who was overweight. The students ripped on him and he came back 2 years later ripped. Okay. Vixen says, Derek, oh wow, all girls. Darth says, Vixen to Derek, butted after his wife spilled water on him. Vixen says, I'm not going to the Doomcock thing. Oh, okay. He is in love with that Xana chick. Well, it's okay, Vixen, you've got me now. Unless Doomcock was your true love, and I'm the one you settled for. That's fine. I'll take what I can get. Darth says, Vixen, how long is the Orville Xena chick? Vixen says. Darth Raven, depends because I am a pirate. Yar. And Darth is sad at Vixen's comment. So guys, nobody told me what movies you found funny or didn't find funny. Am I the only one here who loves Anchorman? Did anybody see Anchorman? Vixen says to me, you are my true love. Oh, thank you, Vixen. He was a misguided crush. Darth says to me, when is the Orville? In the United States, the Orville comes on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and I guess 9 Pacific. So for me, it'd be 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Basically tomorrow is the Orville. Darth loved Anchorman. Okay. Fernando said Anchorman 2, on the other hand, not good. Yeah, Anchorman 2, it had its high points. I liked its fight scene. But yeah, Anchorman 2 was a far cry from the original Anchorman. That said, I still liked it as a movie, but I will watch Anchorman 10 times before I watch Anchorman 2 a second time. Fernando said Anchorman 2. Resolute Germ says Anchorman sucks. Oof, Resolute. Oof, we're on those different light wavelengths there, I guess. Darth says, I find horror movie hilarious. I spoke to Vixen about it. She laughed when I pointed out the shit in it. Vixen never saw Anchorman. Vixen, I don't know if it's romantic enough for you, but that might be something we could remedy on Valentine's Day, if you're interested. Vixen says to Darth, I grew up in the 80s. All the horror movies were cheesy and funny. Yeah, I guess the horror movies weren't terrible, but I was never a big fan of horror movies, to be honest. Although Tremors, I did like Tremors for some reason. Darth says, did you see the movie Party Night? I will link you to the trailer, as it's a black comedy. It's hilarious. I don't think I would have seen it, Darth, since I don't really watch too many black comedies. Vixen asks me, only if you want, Vixen. Would you like one? It could be arranged, I suppose. Resolute says, Tremors, on the other hand, is a great movie. Tremors was a comedy. I think it was. It was pretty close to a comedy if it wasn't meant to be a comedy. I think that's why I probably liked it. Vixen says to Darth, that's racist. Thomas Potts says racist, not black comedy. I don't know. Black comedies. I mean, Coming to America, if you consider that a black comedy, then that I loved. Thank you, Mom. Yes, Coming to America, but I don't consider that a black comedy. because it was just a comedy that happened to have black people in it. Like a black comedy, like goes off on being black, like the Medea movies or whatever they are, Tyler Perry movies. No, I don't like those. Coming to America, yeah, I mean, granted, almost everybody in the movie is black. In fact, I can't think of a single white actor except a couple in the barber shop. But, yeah, but that's not a movie where they don't... Granted, they're African because, I mean, that's the whole point. He's coming from an African country as a king or a prince of... oh, God. The Prince of Mumbumbo? Oh, this is bad. He's the prince. When I say he's got money, I mean he's got money. The man is on the money. Yeah. Coming to America, great movie. Eddie Murphy. Chris Rock. I mean, I like a couple of Chris Rock movies, but they tend to be a more diverse cast. But Chris Rock I love as a comedian. Dave Chappelle as a comedian, yeah. Movies, I did not care for Half Baked, which is the only movie I can think of Dave Chappelle being in at the moment. Darth says, you don't like black comedy movies. Is that why you don't like black people? Because you have a black alert. Alexa has the black alert, not me.
There are multiple skills with that name. To learn more about each skill, see the Alexa
Cancel.
for more details.
Cancel Alexa. Darth says, you, sir, are an idiot. It's not African American. It's dark movie kidnapping and shootings. Okay, I think I lost something. Derek says, I actually think they did a quick edit on Tremors after the initial release. Oh, Thomas Potts said, I thought black comedy is dark humor. I don't believe that's what he meant. Darth says most casts are white. Vixen says, Darth, you mentioned black alerts. Alexa will go off on a racist fit again. Resolute Germ, also everyone in that movie is Eddie Murphy. That is true. He does play a lot of characters. Of course, the King is not Eddie Murphy, and his right-hand man is not Eddie Murphy, and the daughter of the McDonald's owner, McDowell's owner, is not Eddie Murphy, nor is the McDowell's owner Eddie Murphy. But yeah, everybody in that barbershop who wasn't white is Eddie Murphy. Murphy played everyone in the barbershop. I don't think he played every single one. Vixen, yeah, it's Chappelle Show. Chappelle Show was the greatest thing on TV at the time it was on TV. It was on Comedy Central. The stuff, I mean, you call it getting away with, but it was just TV. Today you couldn't do that, and that is what makes today so much more depressing than the 1990s or even the early 2000s. I mean, Chappelle Show, the black white supremacist, the player haters ball, the player haters in time. Oh, I mean, almost every skit. The real stories The Real Hollywood Stories by Eddie Murphy's brother. What's his face? Charlie Murphy. Charlie Murphy. Prince. Oh. He made pancakes. Played basketball. What was it? Blouses. Oh. Yeah, so funny. So funny. I think it's the only thing I ever ordered on iTunes. But I think I have the complete Chappelle Show on iTunes. It's great. If you've never seen Chappelle Show, you've got to see it. Also, if you've never saw Chris Rock stand up from the 80s and 90s, or the Chris Rock Show on HBO, for the love of God, go see, if not the entire series, there's been 2 or 3 best of the Chris Rock shows. Watch those. They are hilarious. Hilarious. Maybe it's more funny because I grew up in Brooklyn, pretty much in the same general vicinity as Chris Rock. But, I mean, not the same neighborhood, but within 5 miles of it, I'd say maybe 10 at the most. His whole series, Everybody Hates Chris, took place in the fictional neighborhood of Brooklyn Beach, but it was supposed to be Howard Beach, which was like 2 miles as the crow flies from where I grew up, and we used to pass there all the time. We even lived there for a short time. Well, I'd already moved out of the house, but my rest of my family lived there for a short time. He does this skit where there's this street, and now Cross Bay, Howard Beach, was one of the few very Italian neighborhoods left in the 5 boroughs at the time. And Cross Bay Boulevard was the main boulevard, like the main street of Howard Beach. And Chris Rock, I don't know what this was. This was going to be like 1990. He went out there trying to get people to sign a petition to change the name of Cross Bay Boulevard to Tupac Shakur Boulevard. And he was like going up to like real people. Now this was before like people made jokes or fake doing this type of stuff. He was doing this. I mean, you could tell these people weren't actors. They were exactly the type of people you would expect to find on Cross Bay Boulevard. They were busy. They were in cars. They had other things to do, but they listened to what he was talking about, and they would get angry at him, like Tupac Shakur Boulevard, get out of here with this, blah 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 blah, and because they did not want to name it Tupac Shakur Boulevard. But at the end, he's like, well, what if it was Frank Sinatra Boulevard? And then everyone's like, oh, they came around. That was like, yeah, we could call it Frank Sinatra Boulevard. But then he did find these white guys who looked like you wouldn't expect them to be for renaming it to Tupac Shakur Boulevard, that after a few minutes of discussing it with him, they changed their minds. They changed their minds. And they said, you know what? Fine, I'll sign it. And they signed the petition. They didn't know it was fake. They signed a petition because people could change their minds then. They weren't set in stone. It wasn't like I will always be a Trump supporter and I will hate anything that comes out of Pelosi's mouth, or I will always be a Clinton supporter and I will hate everything that any Republican ever says, even if it's the same thing I said 2 weeks ago. I will still hate it. It was so much better. Everything was so much more fluid, for lack of a better word. Opinions were fluid, not genders. Those of you who are under 30, you're never going to get it. I feel so bad for you. It was like we had almost as much modern tech as we have today. Fine, maybe our phones weren't as smart and internet wasn't as fast, but the basics were there. Okay, we still had cell phones. We still had internet. My first Amazon order was placed February 15th, 1999. I looked it up today. So, yeah, Amazon was still around. Man, the good old days. The good old days. I wish we could. I mean, there's these ways, but I wish there was a way, like on Discord, we could all watch like old shows together and just talk about them and whatnot, and not be a YouTube video or record it. I don't care, but the only way to do it is kind of with a two screen solution. Like, you gotta watch the video at one site and then talk on Discord, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. It would be great if there was a way we could all do that. Darth included a YouTube link that says, "Watch this, you idiot." I will assume it's not for me, but of course I have to click on it and see what it's about. Game Night, the official trailer. Oh, I saw Game Night. Game Night was good. Yeah, Game Night was a good movie. Derek says Shaun of the Dead is funny. Darth says Bird of Prey 5, World's End and Hot Fuzz is funny. Derek says Dad's Army is funny. Dad's Army. Vixen says the N-word family. Yes, the N-word family on Chappelle's show. The milkman would come. It's the family. I played that recently because there was a story about somebody whose last name was that. So back when I was in elementary school, I don't know, there was this thing and we were reading, back in class, I don't know what it was, 3rd grade or something, maybe younger. And we were reading, I think it was called Scholastic Weekly or something, which was like this magazine for students that they would get at the school, and they would give it out. And they had this, so like they'd make us read these articles out loud, and everyone would take a paragraph, and like I would count how many people were ahead of me, so I'd figure out which paragraph was mine. So I'd read it ahead of time so I didn't sound like a bumbling idiot when I had to say it. And this time I read it and my face dropped, my mouth dropped. I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to say? Because there's a word in here that I know I'm not supposed to say. and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm thinking, I'm recalculating, like maybe it's somebody else's paragraph. Maybe they'll do something. I'm like, maybe I should go to the bathroom. I don't know what I should do. Sure enough, no, it's my paragraph. I'm more sure of it than ever. My heart is beating. I don't know what I'm going to do. They get to me. It's like in the middle of the paragraph. I start reading. And as it turned out, the word was actually pronounced Niger. But a very good teacher didn't even let it become a possibility. Before I could have said anything, and God knows what I would have said, and she said, Niger. I was like, Niger River, because we were talking about something in Africa. Thank God the teacher, I don't know if she saw the look on my face, or if she was just ahead, thought ahead, or whatever. Made sure the word was not pronounced incorrectly, and like without missing a beat, said Niger, just as I would have tried to say something that sounded like that, that I knew was not the right thing to say. And then boom, I continued on reading the rest of the paragraph without missing a beat. Yeah, that still, I still remember that. I did not like that coming up, the anxiety, the anxiousness. It was getting to me. It freaked me out for, 15 minutes before it came to my turn to speak. I didn't know what else to do or how to get out of it. Thankfully. And then, 10 years later, there's Dave Chappelle. And of course he can say it because he's black. But making fun of it. And it was great. It was great. Everyone should be able to make fun of it. Because if you're not saying it with hate, it shouldn't matter. Resolute Germ says the racial draft was funny. Yes, another great one. The racial draft. Who got... Oh, Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is now fully Asian. There was like the thing. They're like... I forget the thing, but somebody makes a request. They're like, they're not even part black or part white. And I think the black said, yeah, we'll allow it if you take so and so with you. And they accepted the deal, and that was it. The race draft ended. So and so is fully white, now fully black, Asian. Rick James, oh yes, it's Rick James. Everybody in the everybody in the country, at least everybody I was speaking to, both online and off, I'm Rick James, bitch. I'm Rick James. Even Dave Chappelle got tired of it. Everybody was saying it to him. When he had Wayne Brady, is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch? That was great. It upsets me that doesn't happen. He was gonna get $100 million. $100 million. In $1990, more or less, to do one more season of the show. And it was so much money, it broke him. And he went kinda nuts. And he left the country because he couldn't imagine the amount of money he was about to get. He left the entire show behind. hundreds of millions of dollars left behind. Crazy, crazy. The crack addict needs some crack. Derek says Blazing Saddles was a classic comedy. Indeed. A lot of Mel Brooks comedies I liked. Blazing Saddles. I'll be honest, I quite was a fan of Robin Hood Men in Tights. And as much as Anti-Tracker doesn't quite enjoy it, I liked Spaceballs too, but that's because I was never the biggest Star Wars fan. I was much more a Star Trek fan. Vixen says there was no Oompa Loompas. I know what an Oompa Loompa is, but I'm not getting the reference. Darth says to me, rename Pennsylvania Avenue to Trump Avenue and the Pentagon to Barack Obama offices, and name Hollywood Boulevard the Hillary Clinton Way. Hillary Rodham Clinton Way, probably. Vixen says, Darth, it will turn into a Middle East situation. Fernando says Chappelle's skit about Tupac in the disco was to die for. I must have seen it 20 times, one after the other. Darth says to me, do YouTube streams of the programs, but the chat is on Discord. That's if we can find them on YouTube, Darth. Otherwise, I'll have to upload them somewhere else. Vixen is laughing at Fernando. Resolute Germ, you think Y2K actually killed off everyone and this is all purgatory? You know, Resolute, that's not the worst theory I ever heard. Isn't that sad? Vixen says, Resolute Germ, suddenly it all makes sense. Derek says, Darth, the link, Father Ted is racist. Okay. Derek says, will do. Darth says that Derek will do. Vixen says it would be hilarious to have the N-word as the last name for a white person. And then Vixen says, Bird of Prey 5, did you have to say the N-word? Well, I read I said the story. I turned out it was the wrong N-word, but no, I didn't have to say it. Well, one of my professors was Negri. It counts. And Darth is posting another YouTube link. I'm afraid to click it. Fernando says, I think that counts. Vixen says to Fernando, I think that counts. He was not exactly white too, though. Too much sun. Fernando, tan, dark tan. Fernando says, but does he look African? Fernando says, no. Is this the racial draft, Darth? Now I'm going to have to click it. Oh, I hear you're a racist now, Father Ted. Okay. Fernando says, but does he look African? Sorry, read that already. Derek says, Lowell, the sheriff is near. Vixen says, Fernando, then that's okay. Vixen says, Wayne Brady, as in Wayne Brady. As Wayne Brady, yes. Vixen says, what's wrong with him? Think of the weed he could have bought. Yeah. Thomas Pond says, Bird of Prey 5 likes men in tights. I said Robin Hood men in tights, Thomas. You can't leave out the Robin Hood. That wouldn't be fair. Resolute said the stuff they were asking him to do wasn't worth the money. What, have a show? Vixen says, Bird of Prey 5, there were no Oompa Loompas back in the 90s. You were reminiscing. Oh, is that your word for Trump? He was very much a part of the 90s, just not in politics. Resolute Germ says, Vixen, they had Oompa Loompas in the 70s. Real ones, not CGI ripoffs. That's true. Derek says, click the link. It's about a priest. I clicked it. Vixen says, Resolute Germ, laughing. Derek says, a classic British comedy about priests in Ireland. Yes, it does sound like it. Okay, guys, well, we're coming up on 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, for listening to me reminisce and hearing stories that probably you don't care about. I do appreciate you guys all coming. I'm going to call it a night here. Tomorrow I do plan to get back to our city, and we will get that prison finished and see where the game takes us. Well, tomorrow is Orville and Star Trek. I'll try to do it earlier than later. Have a good night, all. Vixen says, I only like Oompa Loompas sing mocking songs to teach you thing. Derek says it's 1 a.m. in the UK. Vixen says, nighty night, hubby. Good night, Vix. Sleep tight. Good afternoon to Derek. Goodbye, all. Good night. Safe in Jaloja. Qapla. And of course, as I said that, an email comes in blocking my ability to hit the end stream button. So again, Qapla. Good night. Thank you all for watching my video. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell icon. Without it, you won't get notifications of new videos. If you want to visit me, check out my forum at juot.net. I'm also on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Gab. And if you're really crazy, you can send me some money on PayPal. Take care.